The first time I had to perform in front of a large crowd was when I was 11 and I got picked to sing the national anthem for a 76ers game. I lived in Pennsylvania and it was like the thing to go to a 76ers game, and so everyone at school thought it was so cool that I got to go sing the national anthem. And I stood in the middle of this huge arena. There were 20,000 people there, and I sang the national anthem a cappella in front of all those people. I was so nervous, but you know, every single time you do that, it gets easier and easier. I think the biggest difference between this album and Fearless is that with Fearless, I wrote 8 of the songs by myself. So that's a big majority of them that I didn't co-write with anybody. So, you know, I think the reason for that is being on the road all the time. When I was making my first album, I was employed as a songwriter by Sony ATV Publishing, and my job was to co-write. But for Fearless, I was on the road. That was my job, on the road nonstop. And so when I would get a great idea for a song, I didn't have anybody around to write it with. I just wrote it myself. So a lot of people are saying that the album sounds more mature and that and things like that, but I really wasn't going for anything on this album other than just writing down my feelings and trying to record it as best as possible, because you know, when I write a song, I hear it in my head, produced. Everything's there. And when I go into the studio, I co-produce this album, I really just try to convey that as well as possible to the band and to my co-producer Nathan Chapman. I think the most common theme on this album is just the contrast and comparisons between fairy tales and reality. The first single, Love Story, is basically your modern day fairy tale of what every single girl wants, you know, a guy to say, marry me, I don't care what anyone says, you know, you never have to be alone. I think that, you know, that's my ideal happy ending song. The song White Horse is the other song on the album that really conveys sort of the reality versus fairy tale, in that when we're growing up and we're little girls, we read storybooks and we think that Prince Charming is going to come and sweep us off our feet and put us on a pedestal, never take us off that pedestal. And that doesn't happen in reality. You know, I think that figuring that out is a really hard realization when you're with somebody, and the hardest moment of the breakup is realizing that all these dreams that you had about having your future with them and Christmases years from now with them, and you know, all these things that you've built up in your head, the hardest moment of a breakup is when all of that comes crashing down and you realize that they're not your future, they're your past. And so I think everything from that moment on is recuperation. Everything from that moment on is getting over it. But the song White Horse is written about that moment where you realize that the guy that you thought was your Prince Charming really isn't. Trey Fanjoy directed this video, and she's directed all my videos in the past. And when we were on the Our Song video set, she was telling me about a treatment she was writing for this band. It was like a rock band, and they had a video coming up, and she was writing a treatment for the video to submit to them. And she was telling me about how she wanted to show these two parallel loves, but have one be modern day, have one be back in the 1800s or the 1700s. And she wanted them to basically represent soulmates and the fact that no matter where these people would have met in time, they would have ended up together. And that idea stuck with me. And so, you know, a year and a half goes by, and I've written Love Story, and I put Love Story out as the first single, and I said to Trey, I want you to direct this video, and I want you to go back to that idea you had for that rock band. She was like, I never used it. They didn't pick that video treatment, so we can completely apply this to your video. So it was just really crazy how that came into play. I would say that's the sweetest thing that they could say to me, and that, you know, they're the people that make me happy when I'm having a really bad day and when I want to be somebody else. Because I have those days too. And I think everybody has those days. You know, it's really so funny because some of the people that I think are the most beautiful, perfect people on the planet have a list of about 100 things about themselves that they would change. And so I think every person's like that. You know, whether you have albums out or whether, you know, if I was in college right now, no matter what life you choose, you're always going to have insecurities. And when somebody says that they want to be you or somebody says that they look up to you, it really, really is one of the nicest things that anybody could say.